Hi, I'm Rhian Shillabeer. I'm the Youth Parliament member for Cardiff South and Penarth, and I'm here with Hannah Blythyn to talk about how Wales is coping with its littering and plastic waste. So I guess I wanted to ask you, the first question is, how do you think Wales is measuring up with different countries in the European Union or just in the Western countries as general in its aim of tackling littering and plastic waste?
First of all, congratulations on your election to the Youth Parliament, and I'm really pleased that the Youth Parliament has chosen looking at plastic and littering as one of your priorities, because I think it's something which is really, really high in the public consciousness at the moment. And we know that if we don't take action on plastic pollution, one of the figures that startles me that by 2050 there'll be more plastic than fish in our ocean. So in terms of where we are in Wales, I think we can be really proud of where we are as a nation. We're number one in the UK when it comes to recycling, second in Europe and third in the world. And we've done that through some of the measures that we've put in place in Wales and the policy interventions we've made. But clearly, we want to be number one in the world, and we know that plastic pollution and littering is a problem. We know it kind of blights our communities and our seas, which is why we're talking about how we can take the next steps to get us to that next level as well.
So what do you think has been your most influential legislation in terms of tackling plastic and litter waste?
I think we can be proud of the legislation we've got in place in Wales, from the Environment Wales Act and the Future Wellbeing Generations Act. I think we've got groundbreaking legislation, but it's about actually how we put that into practice as well. So the Waste Wales measure 2010 brought in the statutory targets, which we're the only nation in the UK that has statutory targets for our local authorities to meet in terms of their recycling measures. So we have not just placed higher expectations on our councils. We've actually worked with them through funding and support to actually enable them to actually to get us to that point when we are the number one recycling nation in the UK as well.
So obviously you mentioned that the climate in and around environmental activism is really changing, and it's really prominent, especially over the last couple of months. What do you think about the recent climate strikes, and do you think they're a good idea? Do you think more people should get involved? What do you think they're going to enact changes? What is your general overview of that?
Yeah, I think one of the things that struck me is that our politics over the last couple of years has been dominated by discussions about Brexit, which, as you'd expect. And I think one of the big things that has cut through is people taking action and speaking up on climate change. And you often hear young people being criticised for being apathetic and then being criticised for taking action. And I think it's really important to see young people, and that we support people to be both engaged and empowered. And I think you do need, I'm a politician now, I guess, and I still find it strange to say those words, but I became a politician because I was an activist and a campaigner, and it's really important that people are there to put pressure on government too, but actually to work with us, because I think the only way we're going to get to where we need to be is actually by working collectively, because not only it's not just about legislation, it's about us changing our individual behaviours as well.
Do you know what you're aiming to tackle next with the government in terms of littering and plastic waste in Wales?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're not complacent. We know we need to continue to do more and build on the work we've already done. So one of the things we've got at the moment, we're looking at introducing a possible deposit return scheme, and also extended producer responsibility. So extended producer responsibility is actually, we focused a lot now on recycling, and we should be really proud of how far we've come and the contribution citizens in Wales have made to that. But actually that's looking at products at the end of life. So a lot of people now talk about, you go in the supermarket, excessive packaging, packaging that's difficult to recycle. So what extended producer responsibility will do, we'll look at actually how those producers take more responsibility for the waste that they produce, so it's in line with the polluter pays principle. And then the deposit return scheme, it's something that's a number of other European nations currently do, which is places a deposit when you pay a little bit extra when you buy a plastic bottle, a glass bottle, a can, and then when you return it to a return point or a reverse vending machine, then you get that deposit back. But I think for me, and that is, I'm really keen that we make sure that we make it work with what we're already doing in Wales. So like I said, people are, most people are really, really good doing their recycling at curbside, getting it collected. But actually, how are people going to feel about then having to take some of that back to a collection point, actually to get their deposit back as well? So it's actually how we work with communities and all stakeholders to make that work best for us in Wales. How do you think, in terms of, we are proud to be number one in the world when it comes to recycling. How would you say we could get to that next level, and actually how do we get more people engaged and involved, and that message out that is a really, we're not just doing it for the sake of meeting targets, we're doing it because it's the right thing to do?
I think it's just about talking to the public and telling them that we are listening to them, and we understand that you are concerned about certain aspects of environment and littering and plastic waste. I think it's also about just telling people what they can do, because I think it sounds silly, but I think a lot of people are confused about what can be recycled and what can't, and just educating people on just little things that they can do, I think will make a big difference. And it will also, I think, show encouragement to the government to say that, look, the things that you are implementing, people are listening to, and people are willing to get on board with those things and push them to the next level.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that's been raised with me quite a bit in terms of people still being unsure what they can and can't put in recycling. I think, that's why we have kind of awareness raising campaigns, but also the extended producer responsibility will also look at actually how better labelling for products too, so people are clearer what they can and cannot recycle.
I think that's a really good idea, just so you turn it over with, because you have all these symbols and it's obviously really easy to tell people what they are, but if you just print it, recyclable, then I think just making it easier for the public to get involved I think will go a long way.
And do you think we should look more at actually how, not like we say, not just the end of life when you recycle something, but actually how we keep things in circulation more and well, so we reuse things more?
Yeah, I think so, and that's not also a good thing for littering and plastic waste. It's also a good thing for the economy, and maybe it's a good thing for big producers to get involved in. I think it just creates like this circular, like you said, a circular flow of input and output, and I think that's a great idea because it not only gives the incentive for people to recycle, but it also gives them a reward for it. You can get other things from bringing back your plastic rather than just knowing that you've helped the environment. You can also have a personal reward from that.
You said about actually getting big producers involved too, and local authorities provide services. I've always said it's really important. We've got a role to play as government, but it's up to everybody to take action, from grassroots to government and everything in between. I think one of the things when we look at now, we move to a deposit return scheme, which is why I'm working with local authorities and retailers and producers to actually, so during the consultation stage, we take all that into account, so we get a system that works for us in Wales as well.
It's one thing asking individuals to make differences, and I think there's been a lot of change, in people using reusable straws, and I've seen a lot of people starting to reject plastic bags and everything. But it always comes back to the big producers, isn't it? Because it's one thing to ask the public as individuals to do their part, but in reality there's only so much that individuals can do until it needs to be pushed on to bigger companies and bigger producers to make their mark, and I think the deposit return scheme is a really valuable way of doing that.
I think one thing we said that individuals and households in Wales are now pretty good at when it comes to recycling, sorting out our waste. So one of the things we were saying before about what do we do next. So we will also be consulting under what's Part 4 of the Environment Act to actually place the same responsibilities on business and organisations to separate their waste for collection. So that's something you think would be?
I think so, definitely, because as me personally, I feel a lot of pressure to cut aspects out of my life, but then other things I can't avoid doing. But every little thing that someone does will amount to something bigger. But by involving the bigger people in the first place, I think the changes will be dramatic.
Like you said, we've all got a contribution to make, and our small contributions adds up to that bigger collective effort, doesn't it?
Definitely. Well, thank you very much for meeting with me. It's been really interesting to see how the government's tackling this issue, and I'm sure that a lot of young people out there will be very grateful that I've had this opportunity to speak on their behalf.
I really enjoyed meeting with you as well. I think it's really good what the Youth Parliament is doing on this, and actually it's so important that our Youth Parliament members are leading the way, because actually government taking action on waste and litter is actually it's in the interest of future generations. So I really wish you the best of luck of it, and anything else I can do to help the committee and the Parliament going forward, then don't hesitate to ask.
Thank you.